Hi, in today's session we will look at one of the most dreaded tasks on the IELTS examination, which is the writing task 2. Now, writing task 2, as we all know, is an opinion based essay that you are expected to write on a given topic. The time limit for this particular task is 40 minutes and one is expected to write an essay of at least 250 words. Now, before we look at the task and how to excel at the same and what are the things that we can do to enhance our writing skills for the IELTS examination, let us first try and understand what are some common problems that most people face on the writing section. Typically, a couple of the most common problems that I have faced is that I have been writing thoughts as they have occurred to me. This is one of the very common approaches for the essay that one needs to be written on the writing task 2. I've had many students who've said, after I saw that particular task, I started writing the thoughts as they came to me or in the flow that they came to me. And after having written a few ideas or after having written an idea, I realized that I had a better idea compared to this. And now there are two choices that one is left with. One, to erase the entire previous idea or point that one has made and to write this better idea or the better new idea that one has. Or the other option is to live with it. And now, since it's a paper pencil task or you have to write with a pen, there is a limitation to the number of times you can erase or cancel out things and start over again, because there is a timeline as well that one needs to keep in mind. The other common problem that people have is not enough thoughts or ideas. And this is again a very common problem that for this particular topic, I just did not have enough ideas to write to meet the requirement of 250 words, or I was absolutely blacked out as to what should I write on this particular task to enable me to cross those 250 words, which is the minimum requirement. And these two are the most significant and the most common problems that people face on the writing task. There are 2-3 very common solutions which, when kept in mind, or 2-3 very common things which, when kept in mind, can help anyone tackle these two very essential problems. Let's look at those as well. One of the first things is to ponder and jot down points and prioritize. Now, this is very important. What often happens is that people don't really put in a lot of effort to plan or to prepare or to think about the kind of things that can be written on a particular essay. I'll give you an example. Let's say we are expected to write an essay on the topic of football, and one needs to write an essay in such a manner that you're explaining the game to a third person. Now, typically when we've tried these exercises in class without giving them any direction, I've had quite a number of points that have been proposed or put forth by students, and without any thought or without a lot of effort. Let's try and jot a few of those points down, and then let's try and see how can we move from that particular point. For example, if I have to write down the game of football, most people often say that it is played using a ball. The second most common point is it's played between two teams. The third point that typically comes is that each team has 11 players. There is a World Cup that happens every 4 years. Then there is a Euro Cup, and each continent has its own tournament. So there are other tournaments as well. It's a global sport and it's one of the most popular sports in the world. Typically, when I ask this question about football, there are a few names which always pop up, that is Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi or Ronaldo or Rivaldo and a lot of Brazilian players. So major players, and that there is a lot of money involved, etc., so on and so forth. Now, the point is, when I ask them that would you write this essay in exactly the same order, often the question is no, because it is not always necessary that one point makes complete sense or is in complete sync with the next point. And typically, after a little bit of brainstorming, that they realize that if I am writing about this game, so a perfect start or an adequate start would be to give a little bit about the history of the game, or that the game was invented in England, and that probably could be your first point. And this is exactly what I mean by ponder, jot down points and prioritize. What it effectively means is that it is not always necessary that the first point or the second point or the third point that comes to your mind about any given topic is always the most important idea or most important point related to that topic. In fact, I have often seen that typically the first few ideas that come to our mind pertaining to any topic is our base opinions or our impulsive responses to that particular topic, and they are not really well thought out, or they are not necessarily even the best points. And thus, if you can jot down a few points based on the question or based on the topic of the essay, and not just 1 or 2 points but about 5 or 6 points, whatever you can think about, and you do not keep in mind that you need not make entire sentences while making points. You can just use 1 or 2 words to explain each of the point. Once you've made these points, you can realize that you can easily prioritize as to which is your most important idea or which is your best idea pertaining to that topic, which is the second best idea, or which is that particular idea which will form a natural link with the first idea or argument or topic or point that you have. For example, in this case of football, if I'm writing this essay on football, it would be imperative or it would be helpful if I give a little bit of the origin or the background of the game or where it was invented, and thus this could easily become my first point. And now, since I've given the origin, I could talk about as to how the game of football is played between two teams, which involves 11 players using one ball. And I could now easily combine these 3 points to make one point, which could be my statement number 2. And in a similar fashion, you can identify or you can prioritize as to which point of yours is important, or which point is good enough that you can include it into your essay itself. This will help you with the problem of not having enough thoughts in the first place. Secondly, it will also help you, and far more importantly, you will not write just as thoughts occur, because we've already seen that that's a little problematic. Using this approach of prioritizing the points will help you think before you write, and you've already created some kind of a logical sequence for your essay. And thus, that feeling that, oh, I had a better idea than this, could be eliminated easily, saving you a lot of time. And thus, it is very important to have a structure or a set of structures that you can use for the different kinds of questions or essay types which appear on the writing task 2. We will quickly look at the different kinds of essays or questions which appear, after which we will look at the structures that we can use for our essays. Having looked at the common problems and solutions, let's now look at the kind of essays which appear on the writing task 2. The kind of topics that appear on the writing task 2 can be categorized into 4 major areas or 4 major categories. Let's try and understand as to what these are. The first kind of topic is nothing but an agree versus disagree or an agree-disagree topic. They may not necessarily always use the words agree or disagree. It may often be written as, to what extent do you believe, or to what extent do you agree, or to what extent do you disagree about any particular topic. For example, do you think that eating junk food causes long-term harmful effects for the health? Now, there is no mention of the word agree or disagree, but it implies that this topic is about agree or disagree. The second type of topic could be advantages versus disadvantages, wherein a particular topic is given and you might be asked for your opinion as to, are there any advantages or are there any disadvantages about this topic. Note, they may not mention both of them, they may just ask you one of those. Do you think there are any advantages or disadvantages? However, for agree versus disagree or for advantages versus disadvantage, we will remember our previous concept that we discussed to remain positively neutral, so that you can address both sides of advantages and disadvantages, or you can write about the positive sides or as well as a little bit of criticism of that particular topic. In this particular topic may also be given in the following manner. Do you think there are any positive effects or negative effects, or do you think there are any benefits or harmful effects? The third task that we have is problem and solution, wherein a specific problem may be given to you and you might be asked that kindly suggest any solutions or what do you think are the solutions. For example, increased access to the internet has been causing a lot of problems for adolescents and teenagers. What do you think are the possible solutions for the same? And thus, you would be required to address the problem and discuss the features of the problem itself, and you may also go on to the causes as well as write about the possible solutions which there might be. The last part is a two-part essay is what I like to call, or a please discuss kind of an essay. What may happen in this particular case is, unlike problem and solution where the problem is directly given, over here a situation may be given in the task. After giving a brief explanation about the situation itself, there might be an underlying or a related problem related to that situation that will be also given. And after this, you might be asked to put forth any solutions that you can think about that particular topic. So thus, the reason why it is called a two-part essay is that one part would be about the situation and the other part would be the problem and solution related to the same. And thus it can also be called discuss, as all that you're doing in this particular task is discussing the different aspects, the situations and the problems and the solution. For example, a topic for this particular type of essay could be something as this. The 21st century has witnessed an increased penetration of internet and mainstream media even into the interiors of the world. This has resulted in an increased viewership by adults as well as young children who spend a lot of time watching television. This has resulted in an increased amount of violence amongst teenagers. What do you think are the reasons for this, and what are the solutions that you could suggest, or what do you think are the solutions to curb this particular issue? This is just an example of a two-part essay in which you would be discussing the situation as well as throwing light on problem and solution. Any topic on the writing task 2 can be categorized into these 4 topics. And now, having looked through the types of essays which appear on the writing task 2, let us now look at the structure or the template which could be used for these different types of tasks.